Продовжуємо роботу в
We will continue our work at Ukrainian Crisis Media Center, and now we'll talk about opening coordination office, Eurodesk in Ukraine. We have Oleksandr Yarema, Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports in Ukraine, Ville Majamaa, board member of European Youth Forum, and Andrii Kolobov, Chairman of Public Union, National Youth Council of Ukraine, and Reinhard Schwalbach, European Eurodesk President. Welcome.
Учасники заходу, для нас
Good afternoon, dear participants of our event. This is a very special event, not a regular one. Something that can tell us about opening a new page for mobility of Ukrainian young people in European context. So I welcome President of Eurodesk, representatives of leading agency for Youth Forum in Europe. This is very important for us to integrate Ukrainian youth into European space, to receive good, high-quality information, possibility to learn some knowledge, to learn about youth policy in Europe, what are instruments, what are internships, training programs, educational programs, professional training, information about events that happen throughout European community, but not just that, much more. We are talking wider about European dimension, Europe as a whole. It's very important that Eurodesk comes to Ukraine, and it's pleasant that National Youth Council is an operator here and will serve as promoter of Eurodesk in Ukraine. And this is very important to encourage cooperation between young people of Ukraine and other European countries. It is very important that format of Eurodesk in the different countries envisions creating many multiplicators, supporting many multiplicators like youth centers, youth spaces, youth organizations that would serve as channels of spreading information about mobility of young people in Europe, about training and internship programs, and many other things. So we as ministry interested to give new opportunities to Ukrainian young people, to give high-quality information, new information, to spread contacts, and to create new programs of interaction of different young people, of different countries of Europe. So we have platforms with Polish young people and Lithuanian. Now we would like to create new platforms with young people of Germany and other European countries to make sure that these programs, these initiatives would keep multiplying so that many young people from other European countries would come to Ukraine, will see with their own eyes what is happening here, and will become active participants of youth programs, youth initiatives in Ukraine. And that way Ukraine would integrate into European community better through these instruments, through these possibilities. So I'm thankful to Eurodesk for making positive decision to open office in Ukraine. We welcome this step, and on behalf of the ministry we would give much active support to these activities to create information platforms, so to spread information, to give Ukrainian young people the opportunity to integrate into European space.
It's me. Okay. First of all, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here in Kiev and to speak and to have this press conference. So thank you for being with us. But I could say Mr. Yarema, Oleksandr, already said a lot of that what we are going to do, what I will present. But I want to give you my special thanks because we had a couple of discussions over the years, over the last 2 years, to prepare that day, or to be prepared, or to come to that point, which might be the first step then into the future. And of course, we are interested as Eurodesk to be here. I can also say for my network, we are present in 34 countries in Europe, not just EU members. We had the feeling 2-3 years ago that we shouldn't just look after funding programs for Eastern European neighborhood policy, things like that, but that we have to do something. And of course, Ukraine was one country with a couple of problems, but sometimes we thought also a bit left alone with that from the European side or so, and we thought, okay, as Eurodesk, let's do something concrete. And also thanks to Andrii Kolobov, who inaugurated finally the discussion, because we met in Berlin in the Ukrainian embassy, who made it possible to meet with Ukrainian youth associations all over the country, not just even from the crisis areas or whatever is political correct expression for that. So it was a good starting point, and I'm quite happy that we have done those steps until today. Maybe as an opening this might be enough, and I give my Ville my... Yeah, it is not short. I mean...
Okay, thank you, Ville. Majamaa, the floor is yours.
Just if you want to present yourself.
And then I'll give my contribution later. So.
Yeah, then I will maybe start with the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Then maybe...
This will be in English as well. Hello everyone, my name is Ville Majamaa and I come from the European Youth Forum, which is an umbrella organization of national youth councils like the one here in Ukraine and international non-governmental youth organizations like the students or the scouts or others. And we represent for more than 100 youth organizations in Europe, and our mission is to represent the interests of youth organizations and advocate for the rights of young people in decision-making in Europe and in the world. And we are very pleased to be invited here this weekend. If you didn't know, is the General Assembly of the National Youth Council of Ukraine, and we are invited here as a guest. And it's also a pleasant accident that it happens to be an opening of the Eurodesk partnership between the National Youth Council and Eurodesk. So very pleased to be here. I will later, if I may, I will have a few words to say about what happens in Europe at the moment in the field of youth policy. There are some very important processes, such as the renewal of the Erasmus Plus program and the EU Youth Strategy. So I will have a few words about that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Пане Андрію, вам слово.
Дякую. Доброго дня.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, friends, partners. I'd like to greet you all with beginning our work to give more opportunities to young people, to make sure that many more young people in Ukraine will learn how they could be integrated into European community through things they like, through things they understand, through things they learn, through things they could exchange with other young people. And we hope, we are happy that Eurodesk begins working in Ukraine. That would be very useful for youth organizations in Ukraine. We work for our members and for youth organizations that will give many more opportunities to work internationally. This is one of priorities, and together with Eurodesk and our nation, we'll be able to make sure that all international projects and experience could be used by young people and implemented in Ukraine. We will be able to reach final results when youth politicians work for young people, together with young people, and we hope that work of Eurodesk will be inclusive, and we invite organizations to help spread information, to work together, to join the platform, to make sure that many more young people will learn about the opportunities and would use them efficiently, implement them to make things better. Thank you.
Start my presentation about Eurodesk to make you understand what is it about. The colleagues of Andrii or Oleksandr were so nice to translate my presentation into Ukrainian, so I have my English version here on my knees. So Eurodesk was founded in the early 90s because nobody knows in that time really what are the opportunities given by the EU. Everybody told, okay, EU, and but what does it bring to young people or to youth organizations, youth associations, institutions? So this was the reason. It was a civil servant language. Maybe you know what you understand what I mean. So we translated the language of the funding programs into a youth-like version. This was the beginning. Nowadays we say that we disseminate European and mobility information for young people. Young people, you know, is finally up to the end of the studies, whatever, and starts in the age of 15 in the case of the EU. So I will go through a couple of points, or the context, our mission, our principles, how we work, and some online tools and projects we are providing. So of course the European policy priorities are to improve the access of for young people to quality information services. Information is the precondition for whatever young people want to do. It's the precondition to use opportunities, so you have to know about them. We want to encourage young people to take these opportunities and make out of those possibilities their shape of their personality, so to improve things, and of course to give also a kind of a picture of what Europe does for young people. We want also not that young people just take the opportunities, we want them to be active citizens. So active citizenship is something the EU needs, and all our society needs. And of course, also this is one opportunity in Ukraine to help to better the situation of civic organizations, civic life in the country. I think it is needed everywhere, because without this civic education, I think our countries would be a bit bloodless. Because we need the human beings and we need the human engagement. So the Commission has recognized a couple of years, of course, also in the late 80s, early 90s, that they have to do something for young people. One of the later programs is the so-called Erasmus Plus program, and we think that if just 1% of the population of young people are involved, we should do 10 times more. This is the policy, and I think Ville will tell a bit about those things. The midterm evaluation was made. We are talking about also about a new financial frame. So it means the budget of the European Union. We are talking about, Mr. Juncker had launched last year the European Solidarity Corps, so to meaning to bring young people into solidarity in our society, so to help people which do not have that many opportunities in anything. So the right poster is engage, inform, empower. Is this a campaign of the 3 youth information networks, policy paper, policy statement to influence the Commission to do something. So of course the Eurodesk objectives are related to these bigger frame of youth policy in the European Union. So we want to facilitate the access, especially on the issue of mobility, so that mobility is doesn't mean migration. So don't leave your country, but go abroad, learn something, and bring this what you learned back to your country. So strengthen the country. This is a bit that what we want to do. I mean, it cannot be the sense to tell, in that example, young Ukrainians to go abroad and stay there. It is good to see what happens outside, getting a certain understanding, and coming back and bring it to the worth, to the value of the country they are from. The worst thing what can happen in all of our countries, that they move to richer or urban areas, and we are leaving parts of our countries aside. So we assemble this mobility information. We do counseling services. We have, I will come back to very concrete topics to that. This is not just a sentence, we do it. We work together with European institutions, networks, associations in the area, of course also with the European Youth Forum. It's one of our major partners, the voice of young people in Europe. But I think we have a really good cooperation, and this is also needed because in that relation we are the smaller partner. But nevertheless, we can support us each other. Of course, what also a point where we started is the last line. We have a database, and this was our really starting point. We collected all funding programs of the EU and the member states, where to grab money for young people, for education, for culture, for sports, and we have in our database more than 300 programs. Just to tell you what is the big value of this. Okay, so we disseminate information, for example, in the policy field. Not just about the funding opportunities. This is sometimes a bit more for multipliers or for people working in associations, institutions. We inform young people about the mobility, about the Erasmus Plus program, because it's the European focal program for young people. So this is also in the focus of our information strategy, but also about the youth policy developments, and on the European level, and sometimes not in all of the countries, we are supporting the Youth Forum in the structured dialogue, which is, let's say, the way the EU listens to young people and tries to take over some ideas which are brought up by young people. Okay. I think, for example, if you take our European numbers, I just got my originally I'm from Germany, my German statistics, and for example, via the internet, we meet in Germany 5 million youngsters a year. In a face-to-face dialogue, almost 100,000. So this is a huge number. So this is why we say that youth information has a very important role in making young people aware on their opportunities, and the counseling part is also to motivate them to use it. It's not just knowing about it, but also being motivated. Of course, a lot of people say, okay, this is something for students, this is something for the people in higher education, from the richer families. It's not the case. So what we do is that we try to figure out how also to approach youngsters which are the English political correct version, underserved. So so young people which have handicaps, not just physical, but also maybe under social aspects. So coming from poorer families or from areas which are not urban or whatever. So we are we have sustainable partnerships, and this is what we try to set up everywhere with our network, to be in information services, schools, public authorities. So on the local level, I mean, not just national ministries, but also in the municipalities. There's a word, it's called motility. Motility is the feeling of young people inside to do what they might be interested in. So sometimes they have an interest. They think, it could be a good idea to go to Paris, or to study in Paris, or in Moscow, or in, I don't know, in Berlin. But they do not make the second step, because they fear, what do their parents say, what are the costs, I will lose my friends, what is with the rent, do I have a room there, whatever. So we try to make them believe to do the second step, to say, okay, your parents will be glad if you do something for your personality, if you do something for your education, if you do something for your employability. You will meet new people which will become your friends, and then, of course, you can share that. You can share that with other youngsters in your country or everywhere. The most part of the young people, are young people who are in this transition period from school to, okay, what is the next step in my life? So this is the main target group. The next slide, it's a bit what I already said. It is a learning, going abroad is a learning experience. You can go, and I'm a fan of that, you can go just for fun outside, just for holidays, just maybe in a youth encounter for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is fine, but learning mobility means also to do something for your life, for your. So we do it. This is. We are looking to do it evidence-based. For example, we had researchers, small researchers, on if young people know what they can do, but they don't do it. What is the reason? What happens? So we did researches on that. We created we are working in the European platform on learning mobility to better this situation. On the other hand, we are convinced that we need even a bit more research on that, especially if it comes to so-called underserved youngsters, so young people who maybe have more or facing more problems than others to do what they need to do. So raising awareness, it is this what I said. We need active youngsters because young people are the managers of our societies in the next generation. So we shouldn't leave them alone. And I mean, I have sometimes tears in my eyes if I see that 25% up to 50% of young people, for example, in Spain, are unemployed. And it's not just Spain. So we have to do something because otherwise, I think our societies will lose the glue. The inner relations in our society will be worse than even they are now. Okay, how does Eurodesk work? So if you see the upper left yellow one, there is the executive committee. This is the executive committee is the steering committee, the leadership, the political leadership, and I'm the president of. So we are elected. We are 5 to 7 people, and we have a general assembly. This is the lower bottom. The next will be in Göteborg in Sweden in April. So there we have 2 general assemblies each year where we plan our work, where we have a discussion with the Commission or with other stakeholders how to do it. That's what is called Brussels Link. This is our secretariat in Brussels. We have an office in Brussels. And this office in Brussels coordinates our so-called national coordinators. Each country has minimally 1 national coordinator. So we have coordinators in 36 countries, I have to say. If you count Belgium, it's divided into French-speaking and Flemish-speaking. So, but in countries, talking about countries, we are in 34 countries, and these are our coordinators, and the idea is to have minimally 1 in the next month in Ukraine. And around that, we have networks. The national coordinators normally create, again, networks. Together with institutions, with municipalities, with youth organizations. And we have around Europe more than 1,000 for the moment. For example, in Germany, we have 50, so we are a bit the average, even if we are a big country. So we could do more. But Turkey, for example, has 150. So this is our executive committee. So a good mixture from Europe. The office, these are the people in the office. Also a good mixture, and if you see down left, George, Giza, he speaks Ukrainian, or minimally he understands Ukraine because he is from Romania, but from the very, very, very part of the Ukrainian border, and maybe in his family there are some Ukrainians. Okay, so we have a lot of capacities. Brussels Link is the spider in our network, so a very important part. They do the training, they keep the quality high. These are the people needed in the network. So a nice picture from our last General Assembly. So these are the national coordinators meeting twice a year. Somewhere around Europe, and it is deepening their knowledge. We connect with youth work, so all these networkers, all these multipliers go even deeper. So at least we have a very deep and strong network. This is a picture which is very nice, but finally it is just an intranet. All those 1,000 multipliers in these 36 countries are daily connected. Daily connected. More than 1,000 people. So we run our work, how to run this or that campaign, how to do this and that project, how to manage a website and a social media, how to be updated on policy issues, the training stuff, things like that. So, but you have to be a national coordinator to be there, and then you can create your network and can connect your multipliers in that network. This is a single capacity of Eurodesk. Nobody else in Europe has this intranet, even not the governments. Good. Key challenges, I already said that, I do not have to repeat that. We have some campaigns, the Eurodesk Awards, so we want to make our multipliers a bit competitive, to say, okay, the best way of working in different fields will be granted, and granted is not about money, it is about meeting people. It is a bit the policy statement. It is a bit that you can go back to your ministry or your municipality or whatever and saying, look, we have done a good work. Time to Move is our flagship campaign, our flagship information campaign, normally in October. So where we concentrate a boost on information about that. Time to Move means that for example, last year we had more than 800 events abroad Europe, which are related to that campaign. Yeah, it's a bit our flagship. On next week, we will launch, on the 13th, we will launch our new website, a new database on opportunities, so freshly made. We will have a map where you can contact all the multipliers and all the national coordinators all over Europe. Would be nice to have then in the time one or some Ukrainian stickers on that map. So, and a new program database which gives an overview on the opportunities. So we run, so Eurodesk runs the European Youth Portal on behalf of the European Commission. It is related to the European Youth Strategy, which will end this year, and we will have a new strategy so that maybe the content will change from last year, from next year on. But maybe also Ville can say a few words about that. So and then, thanks for listening to such a long presentation. But I hope I could give you an insight to what Eurodesk is or will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I guess maybe Ville will add some words about what actually the European policy, youth policy, looks like nowadays. Could you give us some insight how it looks like?
Thank you. I would love to. So after this information overload, let me try to reframe the conversation a little bit. If Eurodesk understands and follows what happens in the European level and tries to communicate that to young people, the opportunities and the chances they have. We try to do the opposite way around. So we try to get the inputs from the young people, from member organizations, youth organizations across Europe, make those inputs understandable, translate them into EU language, and then go to the EU Commission and hit our heads into their doors until they let us in and we can have a conversation, or maybe we have to change people. But anyway, so that's our role, and I don't think in this kind of relationship size matters, because we do different things and we do complementary things, and sometimes we do things together, like with the Erasmus X10 campaign. So a few words about why 2018 is such a special year for youth and for youth organizations, and why we need also national youth councils fully on board, because while we have the resources in Brussels to make a difference to some extent, have conversations with European Commission, with European Parliament and so on, we don't have the resources to meet every national government in Europe. That's something where we need national youth councils, and this is why this partnership also is very important. So 2018 is a special year. As already mentioned, the European Youth Strategy will end this year. And this is a big framework document that will set the guidelines and the priorities for European youth policy for the next 8 years. And we are expecting to have a new strategy by the end of this year. And of course, when we are talking about such an important document, it's important that it's fully aligned with the interests of youth and youth organizations, and it is relevant for the users, the beneficiaries, which is us. So that's the first important process. Second point, which I have to mention, and it was already mentioned, is the Erasmus+. Erasmus+ is not going to end this year, don't worry, but it will end in 2020, which is in EU life very soon. In fact, the conversation, the negotiation for the next Erasmus+ starts this year. So in the Youth Forum, last year, we spent a year developing our own process and our own position on what the future of Erasmus+ should look like. You had your representative, the National Youth Council of Ukraine, in the expert group who was drafting the proposal, and they were part of every step in this process. And I'm happy to say in November last year, we adopted our vision for the future of Erasmus+ unanimously. So 104 organizations across Europe had a unanimous position on what we want from the future program. This is the strongest possible mandate that we as the board of the Youth Forum can get from our members, and now it's our responsibility to convince the Commission and the member states that this is what it should look like in the future. A few points, of course. We want the next Erasmus+ to have more money because it's currently under-resourced. That's self-evident. But it's not only a matter of how much money it has, it's also a matter of how this money is distributed and who is the money available to. And there we want to see that money would be more available for also non-EU member states. Money would be more easily available for organizations and local groups and initiatives where a lot of young people would benefit from this kind of help and resource, but where they don't often have the capacities and the resources to have complicated projects and applications and administration. These are some of the ideas that we have discussed with our members, and we hope that the member states will agree with us. This links to the bigger question, which is the EU budget, already mentioned. EU budget is a 7-year-long financial framework. It's called multi-annual financial framework, and also that will end in 2020. So in the big scheme, we are not just discussing whether Erasmus+ will continue, we will discuss whether there is any EU funding that will continue to anything, and where is that funding going. In the current multi-annual financial framework, Erasmus+ gets 1.36% of the overall funding. 1.36. You might want to guess what agricultural policy gets. It gets 39%. So if you compare how much young people are getting and how much cows are getting in the European Union at the moment, we have a lot of work to do. And this is why we also have a campaign on multiplying Erasmus budget by 10. We also have some ideas where the money could be taken away, but maybe that's another conversation. So these are some of the processes that are starting or are already ongoing in 2018. And I want to finish by making a little bit of a pledge. We hear a lot from European decision makers that young people matter and young people are the future, and you know, there's no us without youth, and etc., etc. But this is a narrative that we hear, but if we look at how the policies are, well, they might sound great on paper, but is there investment? Is there political accountability to actually implement what is on paper? Very often, and this is a case across Europe and also on European level in the European institutions, that is what is lacking. So the message from youth organizations and European Youth Forum to national governments and European institutions is very clear. If young people matter, if we are the future, then show us and invest in us. 2018 is a year when you can show us whether you are actually serious or whether this is just nice talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Панове, якщо ви ще маєте ремарки якісь додати.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have something to add, please do so now. If not, then we'll move to questions of the audience. I understand that everyone would like to go to questions and answers, so who would like to be first? Okay, I will start. We already heard that one of coordinators of Eurodesk plans to come to Ukraine in near future. Did I understand you correctly? That Eurodesk coordinator will come to Ukraine in the near future. If I misunderstood, then what are the plans of coordination office for the next 6 months? You're starting office in Ukraine, so what are the plans for the near future? We have president of Eurodesk here, and there is decision of Eurodesk to open in Ukraine. Idea in this cooperation with National Youth Council is to make information accessible. Information about opportunities that Eurodesk has to give it most accessible to young people through youth organizations, youth centers. So in fact, we would like to adapt this information and spread it as wide as possible throughout audiences of high school students, university students, and to make it available to all young people, whether they live in cities or in villages. So we as ministry would like to help spread this information. Like Reinhard said, mobility is idea of Eurodesk is not about moving somewhere and stay there, but to get knowledge in some other country and then apply it in your own country. We as ministry are interested to make sure that young people would travel freely within the country, outside the country, get new knowledge and skills, and then to apply knowledge and skills in areas where they live. Thank you for the question. We as National Youth Council have requested Eurodesk, Ministry of Youth, to launch such mechanism, such instrument in our country. Some time ago, we had certain negotiations, discussions, who should do that, how this should be done. We are happy that this opportunity came in, and I think the first step would be with youth organizations as one of the main stakeholders in working with young people today. We think this is important, and national coordinator is a procedure that needs to be developed. National Youth Council has right to create coordinators. So the question is based on resources, because Eurodesk in Ukraine today, my apologies, is volunteer work, and this process began, but we would like this process to be in trainings for multiplicators throughout regions. So we would like to support coordinators, and this is how we start with press conference, to invite people to be multipliers for partners who are ready to help in resource for this office to exist in order to promote advocacy at the national level and at international level, to make sure that resources for involvement mechanisms would be found for young people to be more mobile, because now mobility is at a level of 3 to 5%. We'd like to move to youth participation to 50% at least, as it is. It's not the highest international indicator, but at least average. That's what we believe to be possible, and we need to work hard to find answers to simple technical questions, and we hope this meeting here and then General Assembly of National Youth Council would be useful for this these 120 leaders of youth organizations who would work with Eurodesk Youth European Forum to make sure that we'll find best solutions for young people, for young people's organization, to offer new solutions to youth centers and other institutions, how we can work together to bring Ukraine to Erasmus Plus in Ukraine, so that Erasmus Plus in Ukraine would be working as equal, that the projects of Erasmus Plus would work in Ukraine. We hope that installation of Eurodesk in Ukraine would be completed efficiently, and we'll move to next point, installing Erasmus Plus in Ukraine.
To make one clarification, Eurodesk is not a missioneer. It's not. We are not monks who go abroad to make people believe what we believe. We will not send a national coordinator to Ukraine. It was finally the initiative of people from the Ministry for Youth and Sports in Ukraine, who asked, okay, could that be a good idea for our youngsters in Ukraine? Not the other way around. So, and then we thought, okay, it's a good idea, and we can do something maybe. So make us. So this was the last 2 years we discussed that. So we can share our tools, our knowledge, our instruments, but it is a Ukrainian initiative. It has to be done by young Ukrainians or a Ukrainian national coordinator. We are not here to implement something. This is finally what we did in the past. I mean, Eurodesk started almost 30 years ago. But in that time, we started with 5 countries. Then we spread over, in that time, the EU member states, 15. And when the enlargement was politically clear, we offered Poland, Czechoslovakia in that time still, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, the Baltic states, to make with similar information but other instruments, because I mean we are 30 years above. So it was we helped to integrate them, to make them understandable. If you go EU or if you go Europe, what does it mean for you maybe? So this is a bit that what we can offer, and so finally, just to say, we are not missionaries. We do not send priests and make people believe of what Mr. Juncker thinks they should believe.
Thank you for your explanations, and I suppose we have one question. It will be in Ukrainian.
Thank you very much. My name is Vladimir Zahorny. I thank the Ukrainian Council. We understand that you're not missionary, Mr. Schwalbach, but you would like to support the idea of creating your desk office in Ukraine. So my question is to Ukrainian side. When will this office be created? Is it already created, or did you begin creating it? How you move ahead? That's what we said. National Youth Council is defined as a structure that will be implementing Eurodesk in Ukraine. On the side of the ministry, we will be supporting this work actively. The idea is that such centers, such offices should multiply throughout Ukraine, and they should be coordinated through National Youth Council with our support. So in future we expect to have a public action plan of what is happening, what training programs, what information campaigns are available, all other things. But if we talk about beginning of work, we can say that today is a launch point. That's when we inform you that the work in Ukraine is started. When a physical space comes out, well, I think that in the near future this would be established. There will be a physical space where you could communicate, get some information, but the ministry, in our activity, we see that we need to use online communication channels and social networks for spreading information, because these online programs and social networks are more powerful and they reach more young people throughout territories of Ukraine at every level. If I understand correctly, you're just beginning to discuss opportunity to create this office. Talking about physical space, yes, the work is just beginning. Talking about activity of Eurodesk in Ukraine, it's already launched with this meeting, with this presentation today. How about the process of spreading detailed programs of Eurodesk? That's a question of time. During General Assembly, we will choose a national coordinator from youth organization, and this person will go through educational trainings of Eurodesk. They will learn about the mechanisms operating. They will join this internet system. They will get access to information that should be spread. After that, we will be using online channels, Facebook, and so on. And we would like to make sure that next level of spreading Eurodesk that would be done at level of territorial communities, rural amalgamated communities, to give young people information about Eurodesk, to give them access to it. But today, this is the first day when we publicly speak about it, and we invite you to spread this information for the future. So, Andrii, another clarification from you, please. Can we subscribe to Facebook pages? Young people who will hear this news today, they want to know more. Where do they sign up to? Of course, we just created a page, Eurodesk Ukraine, 2 languages, Eurodesk Ukraine, Eurodesk Ukraine. This is a main page. We will be developing it from today on. You can also look for Youth Council of Ukraine page at Ministry of Youth and Sports, and we will be informing about new events of Eurodesk. And other organizations, we invite them to use this instrument. As soon as a national coordinator is selected and trained, we will give more details. Thank you. I think this is it for questions for today. There is one more, please. Thank you. He's speaking English.
I'm a culture activist, and I have a question about Eurodesk program. For me, this question is: did you have a single program for culture activists, but not for NGO, youth NGOs? Because I don't have NGOs, and I think for me, and I don't need NGO. So it's a lot of works. It's lots of people, lots of control. I do my project, culture project, all over Ukraine and in Lugansk region and in my city, along with guys, with my crew, you know. And my question is, did you have single program, and how I, for example, can take this knowledge that you have and saw that your cases and practice? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, the EU was it's a question where your question is targeting to. I mean, sometimes, or in an international scale, there are funding programs which I guess would really meet that what you do. The problem is with applications, and if you have not a legal status, then it might be, as an association or for running a project, a problem. Let's say the only single project you can do, or the real one you can do on your own, you can do an EVS, so European Voluntary Service project. You can apply. You will find through the networks of national agencies or the EVS or through partners, as we have, maybe people who want to work a new project in Lugansk, or if you want to make your experience, let's say, in Spain, there are opportunities. Also, use encounters if you want to meet with people. There are training opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities. And if you see the new Eurodesk website, the European one, so eurodesk.eu, you will find the opportunities database from the 13th. We will launch it on the 13th of February. And if there will be once Eurodesk Ukraine, maybe who will translate the information and bring it down to those who are interested or have an information and counseling service on those opportunities. They can serve you, or I mean, you speak English good enough for searching the website, but maybe there are others who cannot. So this is also a Eurodesk transmission service, what we will do.
This kind of situation where you as a young person want to have a local initiative without necessarily having a clear international link or an organization of your own, this is something which is also part of our policy paper for the future of Erasmus+. So we demand from the European Union and its member states that this kind of funding should be available. Now, this is a negotiation which will take the next 3 years, so I cannot say at this moment if the funding will be available or not in 3 years' time, but this is one of our goals and objectives for our work, and we of course hope that the member states do see reason and this kind of funding will be available in the future.
Because it was there once, it was called Future Capital or Youth Initiatives, and it was cut because it was, from a European perspective, seen as too national. So that they said this can be done by the national governments and not with EU money. So one of the positions is to get it back because it involves young people directly without an NGO or without whatever. And it was good. It was just a political cut. Done. So.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. No, he just said. Hopefully it will come back.
Добрий день, Андрій Мегель, Інститут лібералізму.
Andrii Kolobov, Institute of Liberalism. My question is to Oleksandr Yarema. Okay, we do not envision joining EU very soon, but some practices of EU should be applied in Ukraine already today. Youth and Sports Ministry could do many things in Ukraine because inviting one European here is cheaper than sending many Ukrainians to Europe. So what ministry plans to do in this direction to, well, we don't, thank you for your question, and we not just plan, we already work in our national council. We work with Lithuania and Poland. Over 2 years, we have 4,500 participants of the program. We send young people from Poland to Ukraine, a little less from Lithuania because their budget is smaller, but that gives opportunity for young people from Poland and Lithuania to come to Ukraine and exchange here. So if you look at our last year's event program that we will make public, well, we already made public and will make a public program for this year. We involve many youth experts in our exchanges. This year we plan to have a forum of youth policy experts that will be in September. All people who are taking care of youth policy throughout European Union will come to Ukraine for discussion. So we would like to make Ukraine as communication platform. We would like to bring here young people and those who work with young people to increase cooperation with Ukraine. I have a question to you, Mr. Oleksandr. You're saying that there is a program of Polish and Lithuanian exchange with Ukraine. You're saying that more people came from Poland and Lithuania. Were there groups going to Lithuania and to Poland, and what was the selection principle? Did you have representative from Lugansk and Donetsk region in this exchange? Yes, thank you for your question. The principle here is reciprocity. There are projects happening in Ukraine. There are projects in Poland and Lithuania. So Polish and Lithuanian young people come to Ukraine. Our people are going, young people going to Poland and Lithuania. About 50% of total number of exchange students, 4,500 for 2 years. They went to other countries. So we did have Donetsk and Lugansk young people were interested. We have a group created in the ministry aimed at increasing the number of events in Donetsk and Lugansk regions to make sure that youth organizations there would have more exchanges. We'd like to make interactive map of exchange activities so that young people can sign up for different activities throughout Ukraine and abroad. So we'd like to talk about mobility, internal mobility. Young Ukrainians should know Ukraine better, should travel throughout regions to have better communication. This year we support Mariupol and Uzhgorod exchange. So Mariupol young people will go for a week to Uzhgorod, and student young people from Uzhgorod will go to Mariupol. But also we like to promote international mobility to learn experience from countries of Europe and the world. We look even wider. We here dedicate our meeting to cooperation with Europe, but last year we had an initiative supported by Chinese partners, and we had first Ukrainian-Chinese forum just in this building last year, and we were looking to improve cooperation between young people of Ukraine and China. We do similar things with Japan and other countries of the world. Thank you all. Thank you for interesting presentations, and we hope there is great future for this cooperation, which will be beneficial to us all. And at this note, I'd like to wish you good evening on Friday. See you soon. Thank you.